Makes sense. Like I broke down the entire. This is gonna sound insane. You know that like last year in 2017 I figured out how far the shark traveled with Jim Whitlock in its mouth.
Yep, I've seen this post.
Yeah, and so I figured that out, but I just figured out how and when and why Samuel L. Jackson's character is eaten. I did all the data on it to figure out the shark meant to get them down into that wet entry because it knew that all that water would come up through it. And if they swam out, they wouldn't have flooded the facility anymore. So it sat there waiting to make sure that they opened up that door and depressurized the elevator shaft.
They would need to sink the facility down so he get over the fence.
So he's kind of like, you dummies, don't come in here. And I broke down the scene where Sam Jackson starts monologuing, right? Because everyone's infighting. So Sam Jackson's walking. At first, the shark can't really get to him. Then he gets a little warmer. Then he steps down onto the lower platform and keeps monologuing. And at that time, the shark goes back. I estimate it's about 45 yards away to the bottom of the ocean. So the shark swims backwards to keep his eye on him, then explodes, and in 5 seconds, hitting about 20 miles an hour, the shark clears the water, eats him, which forces the rest of the crew to panic and open up that door.
Yeah. The whole conceit of the film is the sharks are herding them.
Yeah.
Which, if you think about it, is nonsense because you just think about it, they're sharks, but these are super intelligent sharks. So how much do they really know? We have no idea. They can't communicate with us, but they can recognize guns. They can swim backwards. They can't open a locker. We've realized their limits of their abilities. They can't operate a number lock.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like this theory, Mark. It's kind of taking the intelligence and going even further.
I mean, this is like a Kaiser Soze-esque plan.
Yeah, they just want to see like a preacher dropping a coffee mug at the end of the film. And it's shattering and just looking around.
And then, I don't know, like, this movie, I guess so many people have, like, compared it to Jaws, which...
Because it's got sharks in it.
Yeah, exactly. I know they find the license plate.
End of comparison.
And then Rennie Harlan, you know that the deaths match the Jaws deaths, right?
Yeah, how the first one gets blown up, second one gets electrocuted, and the third one gets blown up.
Yeah.
Just like in this one.
And then so Harlan planned on that. He made the animatronic shark that's like 8,000 pounds, has a Thor's 1,000 horsepower engine, and can swim 30 miles an hour in a remote control car. This guy Walt Conti made it, who also did Anaconda. So the guy has insane experience with animatronics. They use like NASA and Boeing-esque technology for it.
There's a film we should cover.
Dude, next one. Let's do it.
Yeah.
After Swim Fan, we'll just do we'll do a waterlogged trilogy. Water horror. What do you think?
Yeah. We make it a quartet and chuck Waterworld on the end. Actually, don't.
Okay, I can't. I don't think I could deal with that.
Just be a whole hour talking about the jet ski scene at the end.
Oh my gosh.
Which I love. But
Why don't those giant sea monsters eat the jet skiers?
How Kevin Costner just hands a rope to somebody, a rope, not a bungee. He's in a helicopter or a balloon or something. He hands a rope and said, "Tie this on." Jumps off the side of whatever it is he's on. So that person then is tied on. He plummets. He has saved somebody from the water and bounces back up. But it's a rope. It's not a bungee. It's a rope.
Costner.
And then the three jet skis all just hit each other and explode. It's the pinnacle of 90s action climaxes.
What a gnarly movie to work on, too. Jeez Louise, with all the salt water and budget going over.
Yeah.
And that's why Rennie Harlan is so brilliant. Because they went to the Baja Fox Studios where Titanic had just filmed, and they knew they didn't want to shoot out on the ocean because of corrosion, waves, inclement weather. So they were able to control everything in Fox's Baja Studios. That was used, they got a good rate because they needed to fill it because Titanic, nothing else was going there. And because of that, they were able to get a ton of sharks footage. They didn't have to worry about the ocean or mechanical sharks breaking down. So Harlan and the producers were very smart, man. They learned from Waterworld. They learned from Jaws. They kind of ripped off, well, not kind of ripped, they ripped off Jurassic Park. I mean, they kill Sam Jackson in surprising ways, right? There's a storm. There's genetic testing.
There's a lot of, this is basically Jurassic Park at sea, because it's, as you say, genetic testing on animals or that have been around since the time of the dinosaurs. It's a skeleton crew because there's a storm, so everyone's leaving the island. There's a big storm which they can't get out. People die one by one.
Kitchen action scene.
Kitchen action. One of the best kitchen action scenes.
There's a limb loss. Sam Jackson loses a limb. Stellan skateboard loses a limb.
Yeah. There's a helicopter at one point.
Yeah.
There's a lot of similarities.
I started breaking down the similarities, and I was like, oh crap. But then I thought about it.
There's no kids in this one, so there's a step above Jurassic Park in that way.
And it's R-rated too, right? It just goes for it.
Yeah, and no one gets eaten on the toilet, which is a shame.
And it doesn't. Oh, that'd be amazing. Jeez, imagine that.
that's my possible hole in your theory of the sharks. Is why do they go after Preacher?
Well, I mean, Preachers, they respect Preacher. They like Preacher. Like, he's not
why
responsible for it.
I get they have to like flood that stairwell, but they could just flood it and then leave him alone.
Well, they just wanted to chase him to open up other doors.
Yeah, I suppose he needs to be there to save them later on, to help them up their shaft. They're coming up.
This is like a huge plan. I'm telling you, dude, Kaiser Soze.
Been months in the planning. But, okay, here's the thing. The plan relies on the winch in the helicopter breaking.
Alright, so the thing is,
the sharks couldn't have broken that.
I have a feeling the shark was about to jump out of the water, because Mako sharks have been known to clear 12 feet. And these are genetically modified sharks. So I think the shark was about to do it, and because you didn't see it. So I think it went all the way down and was getting ready to jump up to take it with it. Like, I was actually watching videos of Mako sharks jump, and it's insane. It was about to do it, and then it dropped and went, hell yeah.
Phew, I can save me some swimming. Dinner's coming to me.
That's what I'm thinking. That's my theory.
Okay. I was half expecting you to say, like, the sharks have got a toolkit. They went on there, they sabotaged the helicopter. That's why the shark escaped at the start. He didn't go straight to the boat. He went via the kind of the Coast Guard rescue, sabotaged the helicopter just in time.
Well, do you remember the seagull in the beginning?
I don't.
Well, they had talked to the seagull and sent him to that helicopter, where it kind of did some work on the winch.
They're in league with Scuttle. Okay.
Yeah. or with Steven Seagal from
Gift Shallows.
Yeah. And so I think it was about to jump and grab it. That's what I think the plan was, because it had seen planes. Because earlier, Dr. Susan McAllister, I like saying the whole name, and Samuel Jackson, Russell Franklin, they fly in. So it knows that vehicles come in and out. And it's just waiting. It knows. And it also bit off the arm. It did a good job. It didn't go that high. Like, it didn't get, it could have done a lot worse.
It bit off enough to injure but not kill, because they needed the helicopter to come.
Mm-hmm. And then it was
if he bit him clean in half, there's no surviving that. There's really no rush at that point. It just needs to wound.
Yeah. So the aim on that shark is pretty incredible. It was just waiting. And it would have done it, I think. If anything, it just would have whacked somebody with its tail, or it would have broke somebody's bones. It was going to hurt somebody in there.
It just happened to be Jim.
Yeah, I'm Jim. I'm God Whitlock.
He has just a gnarly death. of horror movie deaths, his is horrendous.
Like the Saw movies really ripped off this. I'm joking, but I mean, he gets his arm bit off, he gets dragged, he has oxygen tank on his mouth.
So he's going to be alive underwater.
And then he's used to crack the thing where he had just come from. That's a great death. Like, that's...
It's great, but it's awful.
I mean, I know this went through a lot of script changes. This started off as kind of like an action-y type thing with like rocket launchers and like weird government kind of stuff. And then Donna Powers, Wayne Powers took over. Then Rennie had his suggestions. But I don't know, man. I think it's pretty cool. I love it all. Did you see this in the theater?
No, I didn't. First time I saw this, I had it ruined for me.
Oh.
The Sam Jackson scene became like famous when it was out on DVD. So I went around to my neighbor's house, to Simon Postlethwaite's house. I got to name and shame him. And he's like, "You got to see this. You got to see this scene." And he just fast forwarded straight to the Sam Jackson death scene.
Oh.
And he's like, "Watch this. This guy's gonna die." And to watch the scene, he dies. He's like, "Yeah, that would have been great to have kind of been a nice surprise. Thanks, Simon." It wasn't until a few years later that I actually watched the whole film, and I liked it. And every time I watch it, I like it more. And that Sam Jackson monologue is, I think, my favorite monologue from a film that doesn't involve terrorizing a child with a velociraptor claw. I love it. You think water's fast, you just see ice.
They made it purposely pompous. They're like, we want it to be like a silly speech. And so the speech it's so over the top, but they did it on purpose, which is another reason I think it's a good movie.
We're going to steal off this pool.
The shark did not want to hear that.
No. I was like, wait a minute, hang on, don't give him ideas.
Yeah. So I think everyone's heard this a lot, but I was working in a theater when this came out. And I would sneak into the theater just to hear people yelling. Like, people This movie with inflation made $130 million. It's an R-rated original movie. At the time, it made about 70, but it was sandwiched in between Sixth Sense, Blair Witch, Runaway Bride, The Haunting. All these movies made over $150 million. It was sandwiched. American Pie.
99 was a hell of a year.
Yeah, hell of a year. And I was working in a theater, dude, and I worked in two of them. I had like an AMC 8 and another AMC 6, and we would just sell out every movie. People just come out. Blair Witch would be sold out, so they go to someone else. My best friends, Runaway Bride was sold out. They go somewhere else. Phantom Menace was sold out. But I would sneak into this theater, and people were just high-fiving. People were laughing for minutes afterwards. At the end, everyone was just screaming, "Go LL," but no one knew Thomas Jane's name. So they were just kind of like, they were like, "Go guy, like go away." Like no one knew what this.
Go Carter Blake.
Yeah. No one knew TJ then, but people were just cheering, and I don't think I've ever seen anything like that in a theater. So I just loved it. And then I went and I bought the DVD for like $28. I still have the original packaging on it, but I don't know, man, it's good. And then I wrote that article, and then that's why I got interviewed for Wired. So this movie has, I don't know, it's been good to me, I guess. So I have this big affinity for it. So, even though I'm an adult 37-year-old man, whenever someone says it sucks, I get kind of pissed.
And a lot of people do. You go on IMDb, it's got a 5.8
Yeah.
out of 10, which is criminal.
Well, I think do you think it's one of these movies where people just think, it's good, it's so bad, it's good? Do you think people think that?
I think a lot of people do think that. I mean, it's been covered on How Did This Get Made, and watching it now, the CGI doesn't hold up.
Bad.
The model work does. The animatronics are great, but some of the CGI is, my wife described it as the worst CGI she's ever seen, which I think is not fair, or she should watch more terrible films. But it's, if they've remade it today, just updated the CGI and did everything else identical, it'd be a perfect film. No changes required.
I just think the perception of it, right? But you read all these lists and everyone loves Samuel Jackson's death. I mean, everyone, and I don't know, it has some big supporters. Stephen King said it's one of the best horror films he's seen since 99.
Brian Ebert loved it as well.
Yeah, Ebert. He was awesome. He's like, it keeps you guessing. And Brian Raftery for Wired said it was the best shark movie. But he said Jaws is more of like a human movie, and it's unfair to put Jaws in so I'm writing an article where what's the best shark movie that's not Jaws? Because if you do a list, yeah, exactly. If you do a list,
I don't even know what would be second.
And
this.
Well, do you want me to tell you?
Maybe.
Do you want me to tell you what I did?
What did you do?
All right, so I knew any list with Jaws, right, is going to be. You just have if you have a shark movie list and Jaws isn't number one, it's a waste of time, right? Because you're just trying to make a cheeky point. The guy on
Finding Nemo. There we go. That's 1 second.
Is that a shark movie?
There's sharks in it.
Yeah. See, I'm doing like shark movie.
I suppose Shark Tale is more of a shark movie, but that's a terrible shark movie.
Yeah, live action shark movies.
Okay.
And so what I did was I got Jaws 2, Jaws 3D, Jaws Revenge, Deep Blue Sea, The Reef, Bait 3D, Open Water, The Shallows, 47 Meters Down, which has a great flare scene, by the way, Meg, and Shark Night. And I set up 9 categories: Rotten Tomatoes score, Metacritic score, IMDb score, domestic box office, the amount of sharks, how many are in it, the kill count, how many people do the sharks kill. I'm not counting sharks.
You're counting birds?
I didn't count the bird, but that's a kill.
Like you should.
Yeah, that's a kill. And I had shark screen time, and then best shark, and then best kill.
So I noticed you skipped the Sharknado franchise.
Yeah, I kind of did theatrical because I needed box office.
That's absolutely fine. And if any of those films were to win, then I wouldn't be okay with that.
Yeah, they're terrible. And they have Dolph Lundgren in it, and he's not front kicking a shark, so it's just a waste of time.
Does he front kick a dolphin?
He eats a dolphin.
Okay.
Like the clone from Multiplicity. The Michael Keaton clone. So the movie with the lowest amount of points wins, right? But so The Shallows and The Reef, they had 79% tomato meter scores, and those are the highest in the category, so they each got 1 point, is what I'm going, like if it was a tie. Right. And then, so what I had, Bait 3D had 64 points, Shark Night had 57, Jaws 3D had 57, Jaws Revenge had 55, 47 Meters Down had 53, Open Water 52, The Reef 49, The Meg 39, Jaws 2 37, The Shallows 32, and Deep Blue Sea 21. And Deep Blue Sea had more points than Jaws. Jaws had 32 points. So
You should include Jaws in this then as well.
Oh man, that would piss people off. I mean, I could, right?
Yeah.
I
Well,
say